Of life, form of it.
So, I mean, I didn't get to see that one, so I didn't know.
I said last time that I would be invoking the Parmenides lectures that Heidegger gave during the World War II, 1942-1943, which were in some fundamental way, at least as I understand it, a kind of break with his National Socialist path or his relationship to the Nazi Party. Or at least this is what a number of people who have been very much influenced by Heidegger have said. Not least some of his French disciples. And on the basis of, my own reading of the Parmenides lectures, one can make a very strong case precisely that this constitutes that moment in Heidegger's thinking that breaks with whatever vague relations he had with National Socialism path. And what's interesting, or what's not only interesting but decisive, it seems to me, in these essays, lectures, is not simply that he more fully articulates the thesis that we talked about last time in the essays on humanism, where his analysis of the truth discourse of Western civilization from the beginning in Rome was fundamentally related to the political. The point of this is that the Foucauldian notion that of the repressive hypothesis, the Western civilization, especially since the period of the Enlightenment, has represented truth, its truth, the truth of modernity, what we've been calling modernity, Western modernity, will set you free. It is the antithesis of power. It is what frees us from power, the truth. Whereas Foucault has shown us, as we'll see later on, and has made fundamental the idea, inescapable. However you feel about it, you have to confront the possibility, on the other hand, that truth in the Western tradition has always been complicitous with power. Truth enables domination. This is why many post-structuralists call the dominant culture in the West, a culture structured in domination. Structured in domination. So it's this repressive hypothesis that emerges in the post-structuralist context. The idea that truth is not that which will set us free. It appears that way, but in reality, truth is what dominates us, imposes its power on us. But not in the old way, old-fashioned way, where you either do what I say, I'm going to kill you, i.e. by means of force, but through the organization of being in terms of the dominant Enlightenment culture, bourgeois culture, concept of truth. This is the fundamental thesis, as we'll see, in Foucault's Discipline of Punish and most of his work. In my mind, it's the great achievement of Michel Foucault, that what I've been calling the repressive hypothesis, and one that is decisive, and we can no longer discount it, or no longer marginalize it, no longer bracket it. We have to confront that if we're going to be true intellectuals in the world we live in right now. What's uncanny about the Parmenides lecture, although in a very brief and suggestive rather than highly articulated way, is that Heidegger anticipates this repressive hypothesis that Foucault picked up on and developed in the next generation. And that's what I want to focus on. What I'm going to do is just read very slowly Heidegger's genealogy, and it is indeed a Foucauldian genealogy of the truth. In this case, though, it's opposite, falsehood, falsum, veritas falsum, but falsum for the Romans is the antithesis of their understanding of the truth. So it is also a highly reductive understanding of the false that was like aletheia primary in the Greek context. The Greek word translated by the Romans as falsum, false, pseudos, pseudos, P-S-E-U-D-O-S, which was the equivalent of aletheia, the antithesis of aletheia, so that its meaning has nothing to do with false in the sense of correctness or falseness, but it's got to be seen in terms of disclosure and concealment. Pseudos, therefore, has a positive function in the sense that it protects the aletheia from being objectified, becoming an answer that is determinative of the way we see and so on. Pseudos is translated into falsum by the Romans, and in so doing becomes a matter of the antithesis of the correct, the false. And therefore, of course, understanding of the false as something that it is absolute imperative to correct, to force into the truth. And you must always think this, in Heidegger, you must always think this relation in terms of his retrieval of the nothing, the false and the nothing. Nothing, the retrieval of the false in terms of his retrieval of the nothing for positive thinking. You'll have no difficulty understanding this on the basis of my analysis of metaphysical thinking, panoptic metaphysical thinking, thinking metata fujika. You'll see, although maybe your first time around, not having attended this class, when you would come across a paragraph such as the one I'm going to read, what the hell is he talking about? I think that you're prepared now to understand it without very much commentary on my part. I'll go slow, and I'll make a few comments, but it's a relatively lengthy passage, and I don't think it's going to need very much analysis at this point in the game. Although, when we come to Foucault, we'll see how Foucault enriches Heidegger's understanding of the connection between truth and power. Truth and power.
Which page is that? Which page?
The pages are on the page. Just a second. The pages in which they appear in the Parmenides lectures are from which I'm going to talk about page 58 to 61. The essential domain which prevails for the deployment of the Roman falsum, and again, remember, this has to be seen, his reference to the Romans has to be seen in opposition to the Greek concept of the truth and the false. And so you have to remember that Heidegger is saying that Western civilization does not begin with the Greeks as such, but as I said last time, insistently, with the Roman translation of Greek unconcealment, aletheia, to veritas, and its opposite, pseudos, to falsum, the false. The essential domain which prevails for the deployment of the Roman falsum is that of the imperium. Already, the very beginning of this analysis makes the connection between the false, as the Romans understand it, and the imperial process. We take these words in their strict and original sense. Imperium means, the Latin word imperium means command. Befehl, the German word Befehl. We understand here the word command, of course, in its later, namely Romanistic meaning. Originally, Befehl, command, meant to shelter, to entrust the dead to the earth or to fire, to entrust to sheltering. In other words, I don't have time to go into this, but This is a very crucial moment in Heidegger's thinking, in which he shows, or an extension of a crucial aspect of Heidegger's thought, where he shows that the world, the worlding of the world, the imposition of order on the world, the worlding of the world, is absolutely related to Erde, the earth. The earth is the means by which the world is always already kept from becoming totalitarian, kept from becoming a commanding process, because it shelters the truth, aletheia. Again, this is more complicated than my analysis is adequate to, but you get the drift. The relationality between the world and earth. They're not opposites for Heidegger. Worlding the world, worlding the earth. Humanity worlds the earth, creates order out of the randomness of the earth. But the earth, if it's given its due, also if it's addressed with Sorge, care, then the earth is allowed to constantly deconstruct the earth. So the world, so that the world is never fixed. Is never fixed. That's what Heidegger means by entrusting, by the earth's entrusting, befehl, to entrust, in opposition to the notion of befehl as it comes down to us to mean to command. Tremendously different. In passing through French, befehlen became to entrust, became to command. More precisely, it became the Roman imperare. Imperare. I-am-P-E-R-A-R-E equal to install. Imperare, to install. Errichten. To take preliminary measures, that is, praekippere, to take preliminary measures. That is, praekippere, to occupy in advance. Pre-kippere, to take hold of. To occupy in advance. And by that, to have the possessed occupied, notice the imperial language, as domain, to have the possessed as domain. The earth is now becoming, by way of this kind of worlding, Roman worlding, the earth becomes a domain. Domain meaning, of course, home, a homeland, but it also an absolute related to any concept of homeland in the Western tradition. Domination, structured in domination. In the process, keep in mind that what Heidegger is doing is an analysis of the word false. As that word has come down to us by way of the Roman transformation, reduction of pseudo to falso. Keep that in mind. To occupy in advance, and by that to have the possessed as domain, Gebiet, to dominate over it. Darüber Gebiet, The imperium is the domain that founds itself on the basis of the order, Gebot, of the order, and under whose domination, under whose dominion, the others are subject. The imperium is the command, Befehl, in the sense of disposing order. Notice what happens by way of to the relation of the individual to that which the individuals encountered by way of this transformation. The goal, the end, is there from the beginning, determining this process. This kind of truth and false associated with domination, therefore, is deeply and profoundly and fundamentally informed by what Heidegger calls calculative thinking. Calculative thinking, where you coerce everything that you encounter in the process of your search for truth to make it coincide, make it accommodate what you want from the beginning. It's a coercive, calculative thinking is a coercive kind of thinking. It's an imperial kind of thinking. Metaphysical thinking is an imperial kind of thinking, precisely in the sense that it's calculative, coercive. The imperium is the command in the sense of the disposing order. The command, thus understood, is the essential ground of sovereignty, control, command, the authority, Herrschaft. Not at all only its consequence, and not only a form of exercise. Thus, the God of the Old Testament is a commanding God. You must not. You must is his word. This duty is inscribed in the table of the law. No God is inscribed in the table of the law. No God of the Greeks, on the other hand, is a God who commands, but rather a God who shows, who reveals, who indicates. The Roman numen, by which the Roman gods are characterized, signifies by contrast injunction. Geheiß. Geheiß is a calling, heise, to call, with all the implications that I've given that word, vocation, calling, vocation, in the process of this course. The Roman numen, by which the Roman gods are characterized, signifies by contrast injunction, Geheiß, and will, Wille, and has the character of command. The numinous, the numen in the sense of the English translation, numinous, in the strict sense, never concerns the essence of the Greek gods. That is, the gods who have their essence in the realm of aletheia. It's not a concept for the Greeks. It becomes a concept for the Romans. In the essential domain of command belongs the Roman justice, ius. The word is attached to eubio, to enjoin, again, heisen, to call, in that strict sense of calling. In the sense that when I call you, I give you your individuality, you become a subject, but you become a subject to me, a subjected subject. That's the Althusserian version of this aspect of Heidegger's thinking. And I am positive that Althusserian got it from Heidegger. The word is attached to Hubio, to enjoin, heißen, by injunction, geheißen, to have done and to determine acts and gestures. Command in the essential ground of domination, Herrschaft, and of being in the right, Jus, and to have the right. See, once you establish that binary opposition between the truth and the false, and I have the truth and down there's the false, then you establish what constitutes being in the right. And that you have the right to do what? To correct the false in one way or another. Understood in the Roman sense. As a result, Eustitia has justice, has an altogether different essential ground than the Greek word diki. See, when Heidegger, one of the things that Heidegger does, and it's sad that so many Heideggerians, pro or con, have not adequately shown how fundamental language gets transformed at that Roman moment when the Romans are translating the Greek into the Latin. The Greek language grounded in aletheia into the Latin grounded in veritas, adequation of minded thing. How that transformation of language slowly but surely after that comes to pervade the Western languages, all the Western languages, so that the language we speak, which we take to be simply a vehicle for our own articulations of the truth, is speaking for us, is determining the way we think, whether we know it or not. That to me seems to be one of the saddest things about contemporary theory, that it hasn't pursued the degree to which it's been talked about. For example, Nietzsche, Nietzsche's reference to language being an army of metaphors, picked up by Derrida and many of the post-structuralists. But it hasn't been pursued to the degree that it requires, because for whatever reason, and that's a terribly unhappy omission, because we still are not aware of the degree to which the language that we speak, the language of truth that we speak, is a constructed language which is informed by an imperial way of dealing with that which we're inquiring into, right down to its capillaries. I've given examples of this in the past when we say normally, oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. That no one thinks about that. But that's a absolute prevarication. You can't see what I mean. You can't see what I say. You can see it only when what you take what I say, what in the process of taking what I say, you spatialize it. You reify it, you fictionalize it. So you're saying a fiction. And this is we're talking about ordinary language. And similarly, I've given the example of, and the related example of comprehension. The language in all Western languages that refer to understanding, what one encounters. Comprehendere, which means, as I've said before, to take hold of or to grasp. I take what you say. I grasp what you mean. That common, ordinary, everyday language. You can't grasp what I tell you. It's not something that is graspable. It's only graspable when you impose a frame on it, when you spatialize it, when you objectify it. And so on and so forth. One could go on looking at the ordinary and professional language, conscious language of philosophers and scientists. For example, the fundamental term for what constitutes, what verifies a truth is evidence. What's your evidence? From the Latin, videre, which means to see. What can you show me? But that's a sound that assumes an already transformation of what cannot be shown as something to be shown. So you falsified it from the beginning. It's that, I think, that, as I said a little bit earlier, that is unfortunately one of the things that is not pursued by post-structuralist theorists, even up to the very present moment of the post-structuralists, although they're coming much closer to that. As a result, Eustistia has an altogether different essential ground than Viki, is the Greek equivalent of the Greek meaning for justice. It's antithetical to the Roman concept of justice, Viki. And you understand Viki, therefore, in terms of the relay between aletheia, unconcealment, concealment, pseudo, and so on and so forth. To commanding as the essential founding of sovereignty belongs being on high or above. Oben sein is Heidegger's word. Being sein above. Oben sein. Being on high. This is where the panoptic thing comes in. Thinking metaphysica, from above or beyond things as they are. To commanding as the essential foundation of sovereignty belongs being on high or above. Oben sein. That is only possible through constant surmounting. Überhole. Surmounting in relation to others. There's a binarism that is fundamental to the opposition between us and them. We who command and those who are what? False. The false. That is only possible through constant surmounting. Überhöhen, in relation to others, who are thus the inferiors, unteren, the under, the lower line. This is another constant of Western thinking, the language of Western thinking, that we don't pay enough attention to. It might be coming more attention in the last postmodern context, but it's still far from being fully developed. The primacy of this metaphor, high and low, in our discourse, everyday discourse, not simply scientific, political, cultural, high culture, low culture, and so on and so forth, but also in our everyday language, the high and the low. In the surmounting in turn, in the surmounting in turn, resides the constant ability to oversee. And Heidegger's term is übersehen können. Übersehen können. Overseeing, sehen, overseeing, können in the knowing. Können, as in from the German, Old English, our word canny comes in. Know, to know. In this surmounting, in turn, resides the constant ability to oversee. And I would translate, übersehen können, and I would translate that with every justification, supervise, to see, not only to see from above, but as the term supervise implies, to control what you see, to supervise, make sure that what you see is going to do your bidding. We say to oversee something, and of course, I'm attending to this carefully and with great force, because we'll see that it becomes, most of you know, it is fundamental to Foucault's panoptic schema, supervising from the gaze, from the panoptic gaze. We say to oversee something, which means to master it. Beherrschen. To this commanding view, which carries with it surmounting, therefore, belongs the always being on the lookout. Always being on the lookout. This is fundamental to the truth discourse of Western civilization, Heidegger is saying, from the Romans on. That is the form of all action that oversees domination of gaze, but that holds to itself, in Roman, it is the actio of the actus, of the act. The commanding overseeing is the dominating vision, which is expressed in the often cited phrase of season. Waning, waiting, winking. I came, Heidegger's word is übersah. He didn't say I saw, he made sure that he wanted to emphasize the supervisory aspect of this coming and seeing. I oversaw, I came, I oversaw together. Knowledge, power. Victory is already nothing but the consequence of the Caesarean gaze that dominates, Übersehen, and the seeing, Sehen, which has the character of actio. Seeing is not devoid of the action. It is a form of action. It is a form of practice, a form of praxis. Truth, ontological truth, language, truth of the ontological representation of being, and the language that it articulates is not something independent of politics. It is an action. It is a practice. It is a poem. That's what Heidegger doesn't say clearly enough, but obviously that's what he's saying. The essence of the imperium reposes in the actus of the act of surmounting over others, implies that the others, if that's the case, in other words, implies that the others, in the case where they raise themselves up to a comparable or even identical height to command, are fallen. Heidegger is now going to make a connection between the fallen from heights, the inferior, now inferior, and falseness, the truth as opposed to the truth. The imperial actio of the constant surmounting over others implies that the others, in the case where they raise themselves to the comparable or even identical height to command, are fallen. Gefallen werden. In Roman, fallere, the participle of falsum, of the false. The bringing to fall, which is fundamental to the sovereignty of command, of Obernsehen, the bringing to fall, Heidegger's word is das zu fall bringen. The bringing to fall is what is fundamental to this binary, the logic of the true and the false of the Roman perspective. The bringing to fall, das zu fall bringen, belongs necessarily to the domain of the imperial. The bringing to fall can be accomplished in a, okay, I want to pause right here. At this particular point, Heidegger, from the beginning of this genealogy of the false and the fallen, Heidegger has been highly general about the Western tradition as it was founded by that Greek transformation of a reduction of aletheia, Greek aletheia, to veritas, adequation of one thing. At this particular point in his analysis, Heidegger is going to make an astounding, again, inadequate, but nevertheless, as we'll see, obvious proleptic gesture that becomes fundamental to Foucault. To Foucault's genealogy of the truth discourse of reconciliation. That distinction that Foucault makes between power as it was manifest and used prior to the emergence of modernity, Enlightenment modernity, into the bourgeois and light modernity, in which what he called the ancien regime, where power is used overtly. You don't do what I say, I'm coming after you with my guns, with my spears, with my bows, with my lance. So you do what I say. But of course, from Foucault's point of view, we'll talk about this more fully later on. But as Foucault said, the problem from the point of view of that mode of sovereignty of the ancien regime, that kind of power was susceptible to resistance by the fact that those upon whom the fallen, upon whom that power was applied, knew that who was causing them their pain, and therefore knew how to resist, were capable of resistance. Overt use of power, the moral of the story that Foucault tells us is that it is inefficient insofar as it is subject to insurrection. When you know who your dominator is, who's imposing the pain on you, you have the possibility of doing something about it. You know how to resist that. Whereas in the Enlightenment period, from Heidegger's point of Foucault's point of view, power becomes associated with the truth discourse, becomes associated with everything in socio-political life, everything of the Western civilization that pertains to the truth, to articulating the truth. And in that process, truth becomes the means of imposing a power on the fallen, on the other, but in such a way that since it's taken to be the truth, is virtually irresistible. That is the focus of resistance right now, everywhere in the world, and certainly is what is fundamental to what I've been calling the post-structuralist. Is this precisely this coming from Foucault, but what I'm suggesting, even suggested by Heidegger himself in the Parmenides lecture, how to resist a kind of power which, because it's associated with the truth, is so hard to resist. That's the name of the game right now for post-structuralism, seems to me. And uncannily, as we'll see in a second, Heidegger, however briefly, anticipates precisely this moment when contemporary theorists are beginning to discriminate between an old power, an old form of power power of the ancient regime, with a new form of power, which Foucault calls the regime of truth. A regime of truth. It's a regime of truth. It's a regime of power, but it's a power that is concealed by its relation to the truth. This is what he says. The bringing to fall can be accomplished in a direct assault. Ansturm is Heidegger. And overthrowing. Niederwerfen, literally throwing down. That's bringing to fall through the use of overt power, of overt force, overt violence. But, he goes on, the other, the fallen, quote unquote, can also be brought to fall by being outflanked. Umgehen. And tripped up from behind. Indirect. In other words, not directly, but indirectly. The bringing to fall is now the way of deceptive circumvention. Hintergehen, going around the back of the trick, a word which not accidentally comes from England. Considered from the outside, going behind the back is kind of indirect use of power. And of course, that indirection is the establishment of the truth-false binary opposition language of the discourse. Is it considered from the outside, going behind the back is a complicated, circumstantial, and thus immediate bringing to fall, as opposed to the immediate overthrowing use of force. In this way, niederwerfen, throwing down. In this way, what is brought to fall, zu Fall gebrachte, does not thereby become annihilated, but in a certain manner redressed within the boundaries, in den Grenzen, which are staked out by the dominators. The creation of a frame. That word frame, I hope that by this time, signals, bells, and it'll be picked up in a kind of fundamental way when we come to Judith Butler's frames of war towards the end of the course. But we'll see it in a few minutes when we begin to talk about the technology, how to use technology, and framing, Gestell, German word Gestell. Now, does not thereby become annihilated, but in a certain manner redressed within the boundaries, in den Grenzen, which are staked out by the dominated. This staking out is called in Roman pango, whence the word pax, peace. Heidegger is referring, of course, to the ideology of the Pax Romana, which implies, from the Roman point of view, of course, a view of being that has put everything into a kind of truth that therefore does not any longer involve violence. But in order to get there, the Romans have had to impose that system, that truth system, on, they go together, cannot be separated. This thought imperially, and of course, what's very resonant about Heidegger's invocation of the Roman peace, pax, and then by implication the pax romana, is of course, you're going to hear this phrase or variation of this phrase all the way through the post-structured discourse. In the sense of its use from the Romans on, and again to indicate the degree to which the Roman dispensation, which really counts in Western civilization, history of Western civilization, as opposed to the Greek, will be heard over and over again. The Pax Britannica in the 19th century, and of course in the Bush administration in America, the Pax Americana, was very common terms in recent discourse since the Bush administration. This thought imperially is the firmly established condition of what has been brought to fall. In truth, in reality, the bringing to fall in the sense of deception, going around, intergang, and outflanking, is not the mediate and derived imperial actio, but the imperial actio proper. The earlier version is an incomplete version to the real version. The imperial actio proper. It is not in war, but in the fallere of deceptive outflanking, hinterganden, umgehen, and its appropriation to the service of domination, that the proper and, quote unquote, great trait of the imperial reveals itself. It is not in war, it is not in violence, but in the fallere of deceptive outflanking, and its appropriation to the service of domination, that the proper and great trait of the imperial reveals itself. And of course, this deceptive outflanking, as we'll see, comes from Foucault, the discursive regime of Western civilization, the disciplinization of knowledge production, and hegemonization of the truth discourse of empirical science. In the Roman fallere, to bring to fall, to fallen bringen, as a going around, hentigen, resides deceit, tauschen. The falsum is the insidious deceptive, the false. What happens when the Greek pseudos is thought in the sense of Roman falsum? He asked this question. What happens when the Greek pseudos is thought in the sense of Roman falsum? The Greek pseudos is thought in the sense, the Greek pseudo as what dissimulates and thereby also deceives is now, in the context of aletheia, is now no longer experienced and interpreted in terms of concealment, but from the basis of deception, hintergame. The Greek pseudos, through its translation into the Roman falsum, is transferred into the imperial Roman domain of the bringing to fall, to foul bringing, so that the truth discourse of the Romans, veritas falsum, that binary opposition, comes to be the determinant of the relationality between those in command and those who are not in command, from all the other. It establishes a binary, a truth discourse, which is absolutely and indissolubly related with a politics of command, what I've been calling structuring of the polis in domination, in terms of domination. So much, therefore, if you take it, as it's hard not to take it for what it is, for what Heidegger says, for truth will set us free. So much for the idea that truth will set us free. Again, we'll come back to this in no uncertain terms when we talk about Heidegger and henceforth after Heidegger, Foucault. But I thought that I would include this reading of the Parmenides, this aspect of the Parmenides lecture, because it is so proleptic of what has become given to us now through the mediation of Foucault, that repressive hypothesis, that notion of the relationship between truth and power, and also because once you read this passage from the Parmenides, it is hard to simply say, well, Heidegger was just a Nazi. Oh, we don't have to read it anymore, which is what's happened to Heidegger right now, right, at this particular moment. And in the process, we throw out something very crucial to what's current about thinking at the present moment. Okay, so that excursion, or that digression into the Parmenides lecture is not really a digression, because as I suggested a little while ago, insofar as we understand this more recent mode of power relation, knowledge power relations, as a mode of framing, spatialization of the temporal dynamics of being and all their polyvalent sites, from subject through ecos, through language, through the socius, through the earth, and through politics. I lost the train of my thought. We're dealing with a mode of spatializing, mode of framing, and that word in Heidegger's essay on technology. I didn't know about this time. Gestalt. In passing, I might also say that it's also picked up by David and other poststructures who play with that notion of framing in terms of the dynamics of reduction that is so fundamental to Heidegger's essay on technology. Anyway, the question of technology, question concerning technology, to put it mildly, is a extremely rich, resonant, and provocative essay. And I'm not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, say even remotely come to terms with its richness. I'm going to focus on a couple of aspects, a couple of very crucial, fundamental aspects of the text that I think have by and large been not necessarily overlooked, but not given their due, these aspects their due by contemporary thought theory. And also, for that reason, to anticipate how what I've been calling the post-post structure, returning precisely to that, to those aspects which have not been given their due in order to enrich them in a way and radicalize them in a way that Heidegger didn't. And this, for example, someone like Judith Butler comes in her use of the word framing as a fundamental category of her thinking. Let's begin on page 294. Where is it? After Heidegger, having invoked Greek aletheia, having invoked the association of the term aletheia with the word occasion. And I think I'll pause here for a second to analyze what Heidegger means by occasion. Or at least as I understand it, I've on a number of occasions throughout my own writing, I have invoked the term occasion, the word occasion, in such a way as to indicate how fundamental it is to, and how its fate, its genealogical fate, has been in the history of Western civilization. Occasion, it's where Heidegger points out, the origins of the word occasion are also the origins of the word so fundamental to Western knowledge production. Cause comes from the word occasion. Occasion comes ultimately from the Latin word cadere, which means to perish, to die, to fall, in the Greek sense of the word. To perish, to die, to fall. Cadere. It is also the source, ironically, of the identification of the West as West. In the sense that the Latin word for the West, in opposition to the East, Orient, was Occident. Also the word, in here, you must think of the word accident. The accidental, as opposed to the determined. The West, through the agency of Rome's distinction between the Orient, which means the rising of the sun, Orient. Occident, the falling of the sun, the westering of the sun, the Western civilization. With all the implications of a commitment to the accidental nature of temporality, commitment to the notion of dying, commitment to the notion of the secular. But at the very moment of its naming, that potential is blocked off. That potentiality is blocked off. The object, therefore, becomes, of knowledge production, becomes to disable, to render the accidental impossible, to make everything not accidental by way of metaphysical thinking. So that in some fundamental way, post-structuralist thinking, and increasingly post-post-structuralist thinking, beginning with Heidegger, beginning with Nietzsche, but especially with Heidegger, the object of knowledge production is to retrieve the accidental, the occasion, the occasionality, the profanity of the human being, or the being of being, and especially human being. This is why one of the terms that Agamben coins to make that clear to us right now rejection of the term secular, which has all kinds of ambiguity, in favor of the term which we have learned down to our capillaries to shiver when we hear it. Profane, the domain of the profane. That's what I mean by occasion. That's what Heidegger is getting at in the paragraphs where he talks about the essence of causality, as the Greeks thought it, in the pages just preceding the passage that I'm going to focus on right now. But where have we strayed to? Page 294. I'm not sure. Does everyone have that page? No?
318, the first big passage for...
What page? Yeah.
318 in this.
318. But where have we strayed to? We are questioning concerning technology, and we have arrived at aletheia, at revealing, which is the essence of technology, which has the essence of technology to do. What has the essence of technology to do with revealing? The answer: everything. For every bringing forth is a ground in revealing, is grounded in revealing. Bringing forth, indeed, gathers within itself the four modes of occasioning causality and rules them throughout. Within its domain belong end and means as well as instrumentality. Instrumentality is considered to be the fundamental characteristic of technology. If we inquire step by step into what technology represents as means, actually is, then we shall arrive at revealing. The possibility of all productive manufacturing relies in revealing. Technology is a mode of revealing, just as aletheia is a mode of revealing. But what happens with technology, by way of relying on thinking metaphysica, is that the relationality between thinking and that which is thought, the earth, is separated. And what takes its place is a perspective, a frame, which has to be understood as a kind of panoptic relationship to that nothing, that distancing we talked about, which reduces that which is being inquired into, revealed into, to phenomena that can be measured because they have been spatialized, they have been thingified, spatialized. So that technology becomes, therefore, a calculative process, an instrumentalist process, to use Heidegger's term, an instrumental process. And therefore, the possibility of all productive manufacturing lies in revealing of this kind of technological enframing. No, our time is up. Okay, we have a report next time, right?
Yes.
There's a report on
Yes, there is a report.
when?
I guess next time. It's about your chapter on da-da-da.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay. So we'll have that report, even though it will anticipate, but I do want to come back to Heidegger after that. We'll break up of the rhythm of the class, but it's okay. We'll work it out.
Talking about that in relation to
Oedipus.
and also two poems.
And he gave us a link to one of his writings
It's
on Bach.
a chapter from my book on Heidegger.
Yeah, the
Invention, invitation to invention.
Yeah, 6 gestures or?
Not six gestures, Austin.
Yeah. I know that.
Yeah, I'm free Thursdays because I have TA work and 6 to 8, but I'm